I was saying, David, I was really excited because I actually have people. I have people showing up for my integrity, boundaries, and relationships class. And I've tailored this towards people who are more empathic, intuitive, strong nurturers. They don't have to necessarily be, like formally empathic or intuitive, but generally speaking, anyone who comes for coaching or comes for Jin Shin Jitsu is on the right track already, which is what I got. So I don't know whether any coaching will happen, but anything that's said in this room is a sacred trust. It's not to be shared outside the circle. So with that being said, a lot of my influences are from Martha Beck, Byron Katie, and Brene Brown. So I'm going to be sending you this whole thing, which is several pages long, and it's got links and things to it. And I thought about printing it out, but frankly, it's just too many pages, and then you'd miss the links, and so it would be sort of a drag. So the thing I found with empaths is we tend to burn ourselves out like crazy. They have such a desire to help and nurture and support that they give the store away. They give it all away. And we sometimes think people should be able to read our mind and say, you know what, I'm burning out, I'm tired. Why can't they tell? Why don't they take care of me? And so it's like, duh, we have to speak up. And that means getting honest, and that means finding our integrity and knowing what our values are and where our borders are. And the hardest part of life, I think, is being in a relationship, because it's easy if we keep things superficial, but if we want to have a real close and connected relationship with people, we have to tell the truth. And that can be scary for people. And I just last week crossed what I call the invisible line of burnout. I've been doing all this work for my master coach training, and it's like, I'm fine. And then all of a sudden it's like, I am so not fine. I'm not fine. So if you feel the people around you, did all of you do the empath quiz that I sent? Does anyone want to share their scores with me?
Oh, scores.
Yeah. With how many yeses you had? And there was an answer key too.
That's the part I didn't get.
It was in two parts, and
Oh, you didn't open the other one? Oh,
me neither.
Oh, okay. Well, that's all right. Give me an idea of how many yeses you had.
I scored a 34.
A 34, okay.
38.
38, yeah.
I missed this email. I'm sorry.
Oh, you didn't miss it? Oh, okay. I know you.
33.
Yeah, okay. And so there's sort of a range. Anyone who is kind of above 30 is getting up there into the significantly empathic range. I'm 37. Mark, I know you were like 35. You were close. David, what did you say?
How many questions were there?
A bunch.
2 pages.
2
Yeah,
pages.
how many? What's the number?
I don't know, because I only counted my yeses, not my no's.
Yeah.
All but one.
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah, right. Yeah, and Yvonne as well, I'm sure. But it's sort of fun to get an idea, and empathy is also a learned skill. It's not and it typically is not verbal skills. It's being able to read the body language and feel the energy in the room. And having worked with all of you, except for you, Stephanie, I've seen and felt that intuition from every single one of you, which is my favorite people to work with. It's just a lot of fun. Let me get up my glasses so I can see what the hell I'm doing here. So did any of those questions surprise anybody? When you, if you remember, it's fine. If you don't remember, that's okay too.
A couple for me with it. So.
That kind of went, oh, geez, I never would have thought of that. I took for granted that unless I had unusual abilities like being able to see energy or be able to I've tended to, because I've grown up with whatever abilities I've had, I've tended to discount the things that have happened to me in my life as just being, well, everybody has that. And it wasn't until I worked with a master coach to get coached myself that she said, you're really empathic, right? And she recommended that I look up this book by Carla McLaren called The Language of Emotions, who's a hyper empath. And this is where the quiz is taken from. And it's in my books and recommendations and resources, so you won't need to write that down. So, but then when I took the quiz, and it was a wonderful little validation that what I was feeling was true, that I had that. What about you guys? How is being empathetic or intuitional affected? Does anyone want to share?
Well, for me, I'm a teacher too, and I currently teach first grade, but I've taught middle school previously, and I find that was more difficult. There's more prep with the little kids, but with middle school kids, the adolescents, I can take on, I feel other people's emotions. Whatever someone is feeling, I can absorb it.
Yeah.
So if someone's depressed, I feel it, or angry or excited, I can feel it. And so that was rough for me, and I realized that and moved to a lower grade then.
Have you had a hard time separating what's yours and what's someone else's?
Sometimes, but what I like about teaching the younger children is it's more positive. They're very excited to learn, and they'll hug me. I get a lot of positive reinforcement, hugs or pictures or I love you, and I guess I need that, but
We all need that.
And also, just at home, I feel like it's my responsibility to solve everybody's problems, and I have to make everybody happy emotionally. My daughters, it's my job to, if they're struggling with something, I've got to find a way
to fix it.
I'm either thinking about it or I'm on the internet looking it up. I just take on that overwhelming sense of responsibility.
And that is where empaths and intuitive nurturers get burned out, is they feel like they have to fix the world. And that gets into enmeshment. That's where we can't tell where we begin and someone else ends. And it's literally carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders when we really need to stop doing that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Are you aware that you're taking on their feelings, or is it you're not aware?
I think I've recently become aware of it. I don't want them to suffer. I feel like they can't suffer. I've brought them here from another country. They're my daughters. I've got to do everything I can to make their life happy. This just overwhelming sense of, and it's difficult, one is a teenager now and she's in junior high, and sometimes there's conflict. What can I do to help her? It's hard to let go and just let her solve a situation herself. Because not that I don't trust her, but I feel like, I've got to help her. I'm her mother. It's my job.
The cultural expectations of what a good mother is huge, is gigantic. But here's the tricky thing about it, is that when we over-support, we can literally rob our kids and our loved ones of the lessons they really need to figure out on their own. And I've done that countless times.
It's the biggest mistake I made in raising my child.
Yeah.
Not trusting that she will figure it out, because she's more than capable of figuring it out. It may take a long time, and she may make lots of mistakes in the middle of it, but it was the biggest mistake, and I realized that by watching her as an adult. Yeah.
Right. And we feel like it's our burden to do, and if we don't take care of it, then who's gonna, right? But then we rob them of life skills, and it's painful as a parent to be able to set that aside and be empathetic and supportive, offer some suggestions, but understand that it's their choice to make ultimately. Anybody else that has struggled with their intuitive abilities?
Oh, sure, I was struck.
Oh, that.
Absolutely. So, especially as a kid, or actually in my mid-20s was the hardest time. So, and since then I've been learning boundaries. I've been learning what's them and what's me, and for the most part I'm pretty good, except with Yvonne. Sometimes my partner, sometimes her emotions become my emotions without there being any edge for me to put up a boundary and say that's hers, it's not mine. It just flows right in so fast and so strong that that's what I'm working on. Because the rest of it, I think I've been working on this a long time.
Yeah.
Because I realized that I am empathic, I am intuitive really early. And I was learning about boundaries, and I've been practicing boundaries, but with her, it's the hardest.
And I think, Mark and I are very empathic with each other. How about you two? Yeah. And you and your husband?
I think, especially because of the current state of having little kids in the house and choices where we are, I think it flows one way, but it flows very one way at a very strong slant. So the boundaries is something for me that I can really relate, that it, at least the current, kind of some of my current struggles right now or awarenesses are that it just goes so fast, and that because we have little kids and that some of the things that are happening in our life and have been, I don't have the time that I need, that I've learned that I need some physical and emotional and psychic space, even if it's 10 minutes, but an intentional 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden it all is like, all right, and falls into place. But without some of those, that space and time, it just goes so fast, and I'm in the middle of it. And that question of is it even I'm not yet.
Yeah, well, it's that emotional contagion, and we literally have energetic cords. That is when I wish like crazy I could see energy. So I don't know, have you heard of Barbara Brennan? You know Barbara Brennan. She has her own school of energy healing, and she even worked at NASA for a time, and it was when she began doing coaching one-on-one kind of therapy work with people that she began to realize that she was seeing their energy fields. And she talks about when we're, and it just opened up for her, and then this flood of memories came back from when she was a small child. And she says it's fascinating to watch people at a party, because whether we're conscious of it or not, these energetic cords are going out to everyone in the room, kind of checking them out to see who you can kind of hook to or not. And that when someone is brokenhearted, she says literally the energetic cords look ragged, like they've been ripped out, and it takes time for them to grow in again. So having been a massage therapist, energy worker, now coach as well, for so many years, I became trash when I was doing energy work and massage therapy at the same time, and wanting to help. That's part of it. It's part of being empathic and a nurturer. You want to support, you want to help. It's validating, it feels good in the moment, but then if you give away everything, you can just get flattened. And I don't know this for a certainty, but I feel like the first time I had cancer was my giving away the store was too much, and in my desire to help, and I didn't leave anything, no reserves left for me. So what I began doing is getting really honest and getting into my integrity. And integrity is, there's a quote here. The Latin root of the word integrate is integrare, which means to make whole. We're out of integrity if we treat ourselves one way and other people another. It creates duplicity. We are all then at odds. The more congruent we are within ourselves, which means telling the truth sometimes, like, I can't do this. No, I do not want to go to dinner with my mother-in-law. I want to stay home. And accepting who you are, the more at peace we are. So knowing and owning what our truth is always better than not knowing. And so I made myself absolutely crazy up to the point where I had the thyroid cancer. And then I went, I gotta change. I was making myself insane over paying the bills and feeling like the whole burden was on my shoulders, and it was not. And you know, in the end, what did it matter if I didn't pay a bill? You know, it was not worth making myself sick over. So I began habits of grounding myself every day, meditating every day. It's like taking that windshield wiper and wiping the schmutz off your psychic screen. Doing a bubble of protection that I set a timer for. You can make it easy. So like in my meditation, at the end of my meditation, and I've already done some grounding, I will surround myself in my little prayers. I surround myself in the white light of God's love and divine protection for the whole of this day, and create, I work with Reiki as well, so I create a zone of Reiki to deflect, dissolve, and harmonize any negative energies that are not helpful to me throughout my day. And then I ask for specific guidance in my day, and it's huge. But the biggest change for me, and the biggest change as a person for me as a life, was when I took life coaching and got really clear about my personal truth and my personal integrity. And that we are culturally, when we turn away from our personal integrity, we turn away from our essential soul self. And that's a kind of betrayal to us, where we say, oh, I'll be all right. I can do this thing I don't really want to do. Or we're so culturally programmed to people please, and it's genetic. You know, we're babies and we don't get picked up and held and loved, or we're not fed, then we're up a creek. You know, so we learn how to do that really early. And that's that ego mind. That's that inner lying scumbag, as Martha calls it. The ego mind, the social self, begins to argue us out of any kind of threat of any kind. And since we don't literally live in the wild anymore, and there's no wild bears chasing after us, we often turn it against ourselves and say, I can take it. And how we get out of that is to say, no, I'm not going to take it anymore. It's like that movie. I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. But it's all in doing it the right way, and it's sifting out what's real and what's not real. Because we get so used to sending these mixed messages of, sure, I really want to come to your party, when you'd rather stay home. That feeling inside ourselves, in our bodies and our emotions, what's real gets really muddy after a while. So how do you maintain a boundary if you don't know who the hell you are? Has anyone had that experience? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Or, as happens for a lot of introverts, it's like, Mark is not a party person, you know. It's like pulling teeth to get him to go to a party, you know. But someone who's a party person is more extrovert, and it's on a spectrum, you know. And so that recipe is going to be unique to everybody. When we don't tell the truth, we got to at least start with ourselves. That's the most pivotal part, is we have to get honest with ourselves, which means we have to slow things down, get quiet enough that we can tell the difference of what is it that I really want, without censorship and without, and this is best done alone. This is where writing things down can be really helpful. So that your essential self, your soul self, knows that you're hearing its pain, because when we abandon ourselves, we are in pain. And then we can start to get angry, and we can put armor up, and we can weaponize our emotions and become an exploding doormat, or do something called chandeliering, where the slightest trigger, we hit the ceiling and we get angry and break out. So, and also the empathic part of this is that the people around us know that we're not being truthful, because those energetic cords are still going out there. And I have to say, Byron Katie is a huge influence on Martha Beck, who in turn then has instilled this same thing in our training. And I believe that all my relationships now are cleaner than they were before. And it's also a matter of trust level. So you're not going to be the same kind of open, show the world, all your scars when you're at the grocery store. It's just not appropriate. You share to the degree that you've built up trust with people. Brene Brown has this wonderful metaphor. Her daughter came home from school, and the teacher had set up 2 marble jars, and every time the kids do these positive, nurturing, supporting things, they had more marbles put in the jar. And when kids did things that were not supportive or positive, then they took marbles out of the jar. If the trust jar got filled up, the marble jar, then they got some kind of reward. And so, if someone lied or was bullying or doing something like that, then marbles were taken out of the jar. So Brene Brown's daughter came home, was really upset because she's young, she's like 7 or 8, and her friends had told a secret of hers to all their other friends, and she felt completely betrayed. So Brene was able to use this metaphor of the marble jar, is that you're as you know people, you're adding more and more trust marbles into your jar, and the more that you're honest, even if it's painful, the trust will stay there. But if we tell little lies to ourselves, and our own marble jar can get emptied, because it's like we sell ourselves down the river, and that's when we can have a really negative self-talk, and Martha calls that slapping the baby. Anyone that you would not treat, that you love, that you would never yell at, call an idiot, then why do we do that to ourselves? And so part of it is that loving kindness to say, I count, I matter. And reinforce in yourself that you can trust yourself to stick up for yourself. Frequently with my clients, I see this rage that will come up against another person, when in truth it's that they've abandoned themselves. They've let themselves go in some way and said, he should know by now, she should know by now, without examining whether it's really true or not, without checking in and verifying the truth of something. So, okay, with that said, let me go back to my notes. So you guys, have any of you, can you think of a time in the recent past where you have abandoned yourself? Yeah?
Well, no, my daughter had a baby about almost 2 months ago, and her behavior was I found a great difficulty with it, and and my anger level just kept going, building up and up and up, because what she told me why she was so angry at me, she was extremely angry at me, she just wanted me to go away and have nothing to do with her, and my expectation was, of course, the opposite. And so I was feeling, I was becoming angrier, and I was aware of it, and I just kind of lost it completely. in my behavior and what I let that anger build till I honestly truly exploded. It was like, a volcano. And I said things that I've been thinking for a long time. I did say to her. I don't have regrets that I said it though. I don't at all. Because I think she said that I was self-centered, and all I cared about was myself, and that was it, because that's exactly her behavior. And I took, but anyway, that's just kind of, and I've worked a lot, very hard, and I haven't had that kind of behavior for a long time. And so I was a little shocked at myself. But I think what happened was I wasn't being true to myself. I wasn't really saying, this is how I really feel, and make some decisions, to give myself space from her. And if I had done that, then that wouldn't have happened.
And that's the pivotal part, is to give yourself some space, because we can weaponize. And that's the thing, when we abandon ourselves and we do not speak up for ourselves, it's like, man, the pressure is building up like crazy, and unless we at least start with ourselves, but we've got to get clear on, what is it exactly that really is bugging me about this? What's the essence of the problem? And work it through, get calm before we have the talk, because then it turns into this exploding doormat thing.
Well, I did have a conversation that I wanted to talk to her, and I did, and she just, she wasn't comfortable in being honest with me. And her issue is she doesn't trust me from the past.
From
behaviors.
the past, right.
She's hanging on to that for dear life, and she's not willing to let it go. So that is the barometer that she uses in how she deals with me, going in the present. And then I also had a realization that she doesn't want to. I had the thought, and now it escaped. She's not in a place and won't be to look at her own behavior. And that's it.
Yeah, family, right? Can't live with them, can't kill them, but you can get real with them. You can get honest and really clean in your integrity. But if it's delivered in an angry way, then you need to still do some processing on your own and let out the steam, either by writing it out, talking to someone else, therapist, coach, good friend, husband, someone who gets you and can help you process it before you have the talk.
Well, I've come to, for me, what I realized is that you can't, I can't really be truly honest with her because she can't hear it. And she'll get angry, and then she'll dump on me. It's my fault, like what she did in saying,
right,
you're the one that's self-centered.
Right. Yeah, the delivery does count, and there may be some marbles in the trust jar that need to be slowly built up over time. Again.
Well, that's my realization. She's not willing to let go of it.
People may not like what we have to say. That's the scary part about being in our integrity, is people may not like it. And we may find ourselves, if you are building a relationship on a foundation of truth, and you really are honest, and you don't weaponize it, you do it from a kind place, a calmer place, and say, so like Mark and I have a little bit of a shorthand now. I'll say, okay, I'm going to be in my integrity now. And I'll start that way. And he knows that, because we talk about everything all the time. And I believe it's built this clean relationship. And there is a difference between clean pain and dirty pain, which comes from acceptance and commitment therapy. And I love this concept because it's so simple and elegant. You can get it right away. Is clean pain is a direct link to an event or a situation. Someone says something and it hurts, or someone moves away, or someone dies, but it's a direct cause. Dirty pain are all the interpretations and stories upon stories that we begin to create. So my friend moved away. There's the loss, there's the clean pain of loss, but then the dirty pain story is there must be something wrong with me if they moved away, when there may be nothing wrong with you at all. It could be their issue entirely. And then we're afraid to check in and say, did you move away because I'm not enough? So they don't find out. So and then I bet you've heard people say, I bet they were thinking this. I bet they were thinking that. Or they should do this or they shouldn't do that. And we think that we know better. So tuning into, okay, what's the clean pain story here? And what's me piling on and on and on. Then it can be stories about stories about stories. And you see it especially in teams and groups of people, in organizations where, in an office it's just rampant. Or in academia, Oh my God. Yeah, teachers. People, you get groups together. So like Brene Brown has done a ton of work with organizations because it helps clean up the relationships. So,
Tari,
yes.
I wonder, it's not the same analogy as the clean pain dirty pain. I know you've talked about those but just to share what popped into my mind is Tara Brach.
Yeah.
We've talked about it. She uses, and it's really been helpful for me the past few months, this idea of the second arrow. So the first arrow is whatever it is. Like the friend moves away and you feel grief, you feel sad. Like that's the first arrow, life shoots them.
Yeah.
But her idea, and it might not just be hers, but the one she speaks of that I've heard is the second arrow is the arrow that then we put in ourselves about why.
Oh, beautiful
so
metaphor.
We can't avoid the first arrow, but the second arrow, and that's what I've been working on, is not shooting those second arrows.
Right.
To make it worse.
Right.
Or make it dirty, I guess. Those second arrows would make it a dirtier pain.
Right. And if we're not willing to take responsibility, that's why it's critical to get in your own integrity for yourself first. Because for someone who's afraid or often angry or sad, the feelings are so uncomfortable that they try and deflect them, blame someone else, abdicate responsibility as soon as possible. So it always has to come back to us, slowing it down, meditating on it for a while. And one of the things I love about Byron Katie is whose business are we in? There's the things that are uncontrollable, like God's business, and then there's other people's business and our own business. And I want to read you this a quote of hers. To think that I know what's best for anyone else is to be out of my business. Even in the name of love, it is pure arrogance, and the result is tension, anxiety, and fear. Do I know what's right for me? That is my only business. Let me work with that before I try to solve your problems for you. If you understand the three kinds of business enough to stay in your own business, it could free your life in a way that you can't even imagine. The next time you are feeling stress or discomfort, ask yourself whose business you're mentally in, and you may burst out laughing. That question can bring you back to yourself, and you may come to see that you've never really been present, that you've been mentally living in other people's business all your life. Just to notice that you're in someone else's business can bring you back to your own wonderful self. So starting with, okay, the clean pain, dirty pain, or where am I shooting that arrow? Am I shooting it back towards me? And the grief that I have seen in people who have abandoned themselves and their truth is hard to see. Because they're afraid to speak, because there's risk. If you say to your closest person, this is really bothering me, and this is why, from a kind place, so it's not weaponized. Because you've got to, if you become the exploding doormat, let me read this part. Okay. Okay. Okay, yeah, this is the part I want to read. So, recognizing our stories or our precious illusions, because people get so married to their way of thinking, that it's like my way or the highway, or this is the right way to think, which is why it's so important to understand everybody's business is different, and to make the arrogant decision that we know better is fraught with peril and conflict. Okay, so.
Can I bring up something?
Sure.
Okay, so if somebody gets angry, and I'm trying to think of the things you just said.
Yeah.
It's really all about them. So.
I mean, there's interaction. There is, but.
It's really about them.
Yeah.
So if you could say, I'm not going to say anything, I'm not going to react, I'm not going to do anything. That's how with certain people, that's how I have learned to deal with them. Because if
sometimes they just need to be heard. I mean, it's something I worried about before I became a coach, is that I would get so wrapped up in everyone's story that, or be afraid to tell the truth, because what they need is, truth acts as a disinfectant. That's the thing. And so when someone is raw and vulnerable and open, I thought, oh my God, am I going to be able to do this? And what I've discovered is that by acting as a vessel for someone else and understanding that it is their business, I can help shine a light, help them to see another way of looking at it, but understand it's their responsibility and their choice. It's not mine to fix them. I can shine a light and say, look at these 3 options here. What do you think? Then you can be there for someone as a vessel for them, rather than there's the fix-it guy. Because unless they choose it, and that's where all my years helping people with a chronic illness or a healing crisis like cancer or AIDS or whatever, is if I fall apart, I mean, it can be really self-indulgent too. Someone walks in the door and says, oh my God, I just found I have cancer. And I go, oh my God, it's all about me. It's like, that's not going to help them, right? So being a vessel for someone is going to, sometimes that's what they need. They need to let the steam out of the radiator, because the pressure is built up, and it might be all those years of abandoning themselves and being in other people's business. So, for example, your daughter thinks that, well, you should be this way and you should be that way, and you probably have similar things for her. She should be this way and she should be that way, because we're so culturally programmed to what a good mother is, what a good teacher is, what a good coach is.
I mean, I had an epiphany when I realized I can't, I know this on so many levels.
Right.
I really do. I've been working with this for a long time, and I said, you know what? I mean, she is who she is. Either I accept her as, I have to accept her for who she is.
Yes, and get out of her business.
Right.
And then find the little bridges of connection.
I don't know why I got so into it. I have no idea what drew me into it.
Oh, there can be so many.
I have no idea.
Right. I mean,
I was like, where's this coming from?
Yeah, the social self-programming is really powerful. And then you get our hardwired amygdala, which is our fight or flight or freeze. And those are like bedrock beliefs. And those, unless you stop and spot them, because we all have blind spots. And that...
Yep.
And it's one of the oldest parts of the brain, and so it's getting back into the body again. So and into our feeling the subtle messages, so that can come from our essential self that speak to us non-verbally. Because the social self mind, which is even within a 10-year span of generations, the beliefs are so different about what a good person is and what a good person isn't. It's kind of phenomenal. And so we can only own us. We can only own that truth. But it takes courage. to reach out to the people we're the closest to and say, this is the truth. Okay, it's important to continually check in with whether a belief you're holding is true. Getting honest about the stories we're making up about our struggles, self-protections we have, and what we need to change will lead us to more fulfilling lives and relationships. Ultimately, dealing with the real truth feels kinder than a lie, even if the ramifications are scary. The more attached to a belief, the more important it is to find out if it's absolutely true or not. So, for example, when I was waiting to find out whether I had cancer was much worse than finally getting the diagnosis. Because then you can make a plan. Then you can decide, how do I want to be with this? I can scare myself to death, or I can look at it in a new way. This to me, in my personal experience, is the most graphic example of how it also, too many thoughts at once, I'm getting excited. And then there's this, that, and the other. I get too many thoughts going at once. All of our emotions have a benevolent side to them. So even the ones that we're the most afraid of or we don't like in ourselves the most, there's some gift in them. So like Carla McLaren, the hyper empath, talks about anger being the honorable sentry. It's saying our boundaries have just been crossed, and then it's our job to go inside and say, where and why was it crossed? Did I even know it was being crossed? Why does this bug the hell out of me? And then I chandeliered, hit the ceiling and it surprises the hell out of you. It's a great little signpost to say, go inside, do some work. Or fear. Fear is a gift in when it is healthy fear. Healthy fear is our intuition that says, getting on the elevator with some creepy guy and the hair goes up in the back of your neck and you go, no, don't go in there. But our social self, inner-lying scumbag, will say, oh, he's probably fine, I'm just being silly. But if you've ever experienced clean fear, it's a survival tool, and it's also our intuition. Let me give you an example, a real world example for me. I was on the L train coming home, and I've never had this experience ever before, but this was clean fear. And I saw this guy. He looked like an ordinary guy, but there was something about the guy, his energy, that just gave me the creeps in a big way, and the hair went up in the back of my neck. And I just got, do not telegraph where I'm getting out on the next L stop. And that's what I did. And I didn't go up and stand there and wait. I didn't want him to know when I was getting off. So fortunately I was near the door. So when the doors opened, I just bolted out the door. I mean, so that he would not have time to follow me. So that's clean fear, but most of the time our fears are self-made. And it's turning those arrows in at ourselves, and what if people don't like me? What if they criticize me? What if I'm not good enough? What if, the plethora of what ifs. So it's always good to remember that, and sadness can be, where is this? Sadness can help ground us and help us to relax. So when I've done body work on people and I've hit a place on their body, and I start getting these energetic rushes through me like crazy, and I glance up and I see that someone is about to cry. And, they're clamping their breath down, which is the first way to cut yourself off from your body and not feel. And so then I would say to them, I want you to take a big breath. And they take a big breath. And they can't hold it anymore. They allow themselves to cry. So part of getting in your integrity is allowing your feelings, good, bad, indifferent, ugly, miserable. And I've seen, and as soon as they allow themselves to cry, then it becomes clean and you let it go. And those energetic rushes leave. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I felt that one. I felt that right across the room. Yeah. So feel what you feel and know what you know, because that's what will take you to your truth, right? Yeah. Yeah. And so part of understanding our boundaries is understanding what our values are. And so I've passed this around. I have my little microphone on. And circling the ones that mean the most to you. And it's something that's important to know when you are considering sharing a really scary truth is that you don't have to share it until you feel ready, until you've found the words to say it, not from a panicked place, not from a terrified place, not from an angry place, but from a kind place. Is you say it when it's time.
Tari,
Yes.
just to kind of ask this, because it's my own without, sharing my story, like, that process for me in some very intimate relationships
Yeah.
is like years long. Like it is taking me years to get
Yeah.
to that place where it is not weaponized and where I
Right.
know my truth first and it's hovering and it's there and like is it, in your experience here's my own stuff coming up. Am I doing it wrong? Why is it taking But I know it's there and I'm working on it when I can and
Yes.
life intercedes and does all this stuff and it's I try not to just walk away from it, but I'm
Yeah.
also kind of what you said, what you're saying really resonates. Like I'm not at a place for some of these truths. I think I'm seeing them more clearly. I'm coming at them from different directions, but the words aren't there yet. And when I
Right.
try to find the words, even writing them to myself,
Yeah.
I still go to blame or I still go to, all these, I get sidetracked. And so
Yeah.
is that part of it that it could
It's
take years?
yeah.